It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the South Dakota State head softball coach, Coach Krista Wood. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get involved in college coaching?
Yeah. Well, my dad was he retired now, but was a high school coach for our high school baseball team. I didn't know I was wanting to do college coaching, but I knew I wanted to coach. Thought I was going to coach at the high school level. But after my experience up at St. Cloud State, being a graduate assistant up there and the pitching coach, I kind of really liked this side of softball, like behind the scenes and kind of all the prep work you put into it. And so that's kind of what changed my mind to go maybe from high school coaching and teaching to potentially trying to look for a college softball job. So I think just being a GA is what changed my mind, because I was just going to be a GA to get my master's.
What was your college time like playing softball for Nebraska-Omaha?
Yeah, I mean, we had four great seasons there. Was part of the national championship team in 2001. I think we went to 4 NCAA tournaments, won the league a few times, and had great experience there. Played for Coach Scarpello, great coach, a lot of great teammates. Had a great experience there because I think, we all had the same mission and was to keep winning, and we worked hard, and we had a tradition of good softball there. So it was something definitely that I wish I could go back to again, because now that I know even more as a player, where I think I could have been even a better player if I would have known some of the things I know now.
What was it like, obviously, going to the national championship and winning the national championship?
Yeah, and it was a really, really cool experience. I was just fortunate enough to even be able to finish out that season because in March of that season, I was diagnosed with a blood clot in my bicep. And so I had to sit out for like 4 to 6 weeks starting in March. And I just made my way back. I don't even know if I pitched an inning in the conference tournament that year, and then was able to come back and pitch in the regionals and the nationals. And, it was really cool that coach gave me the ball in the national championship game, and we played hard and we won it. And it was really cool because, usually at the end of the season, I've never been part of a team where you win your last game. Usually you lose your last game of the season and there's tears of sadness, but we had like tears of joy. And it was just something we had talked about all year. So having that experience and being able to win that last game of the season was a really cool experience.
Of course, as you got inducted this year and stuff, what was that feeling like of obviously getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so I was supposed to be inducted into UNO's Hall of Fame in the spring of 2020, but then obviously COVID hit. So then it got pushed back to 21, and I think it's going to be 22 because they wanted to have a full experience. And I'm super honored to get inducted this spring. It's a really, I think to be up there with all those people that are in the Hall of Fame, but to kind of go back and think about those times at UNO is it's fun to do and, talk and reminisce with your old teammates.
What was it like, obviously, getting the GA role at St. Cloud?
Yeah, at first it was really hard because I graduated from Nebraska-Omaha in December. So I went up mid-year up to St. Cloud, and I'd never been in 6 hours now doesn't seem like anything, but I'd never been that far away from home because my hometown was about 30 minutes from Omaha. So being at Nebraska-Omaha wasn't very far away, but being up there, it was different. I'd never been that far away from home. I'd never been that far north. And I just kind of had to hit the ground running because when I got there in January, it was time for season. So, I built a great relationship with the pitchers and the coaching staff and the players, and still to this day, have conversations with those players, and Coach Paula is one of my good friends and a great mentor to me. So stay in contact with her as well. So it was hard, but it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from that. And I think everyone needs to experience being a GA. I think there's a lot of things you can learn from that experience.
Of course, what was it like to get your first head coaching job at Wayne State College?
Yeah, I mean, I was 24, 25 years old getting my first coaching job. Not sure, what exactly to do and how to do it, but I was really fortunate enough to have a baseball coach there that had great tradition and kind of took me under his wing and taught me the do's and the don'ts, and kind of mentored me through that. And we had 8 winning seasons there, and that was great because before I got in there, Wayne hadn't had a winning season in like 8 to 10 years. And so us just coming out that first year, having our first winning season, and I just kind of had to figure it out on my own. Like, how do you recruit? How do you budget? Like, I'd never done that. And I remember in my interview, they asked, how do you have you ever had a budget? And I said, well, I have a checking account, and I balance my checking account every day. Cause back then, we wrote a lot of checks and things like that. But budget wise. And so, just kind of learning those things. And I kind of had to just kind of go with the flow and learn on my own and have a lot of self-discipline with what I was doing. And again, I think the baseball coach helped me a lot there. And, even talking to other coaches and just finding my way.
What is it like, obviously, looking back as your time at Wayne and seeing, obviously, you having a winning culture and the most winningest coach there?
Yeah, I coach very differently now than I coached then. And I think my Wayne State players would tell me now that I'm soft compared to what I was back then. But yeah, we actually started to have a great tradition there, and we got players in there right away. Even the kids I inherited on that team that bought in and wanted to work hard and make a statement in the NSIC. So, and then, bringing in my first recruiting class that took us to 3 NCAA tournaments. That was just so much fun. I used kind of my roots of where I was from in Iowa, and found players that kind of knew who I was as a player and wanted to come play for me. And we were able to pick up an All-American pitcher out of Harlan, Iowa, and some great players out of Logan, Iowa, and Sergeant Bluff, just all around that area, and even in the Omaha area. But I loved it there. The staff is supportive. It's like a family environment. We had it rolling, and it was a fun 8 years for sure. It was a hard decision to leave because I had built such a great relationship with our team, and we had great culture, and we were continuing to move in the right direction, pushing for, NSIC championships every year and get to the NCAA tournament, to then come here and do again what I did, rebuild a program at the Division I level.
Of course, what was it like, obviously, leaving Wayne State to go to South Dakota?
Yeah, like I said, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, calling those players up and telling them I was taking another job. I hated every moment of that. There were tears, there was laughter, but the kids were like, I felt bad because they were like, well, what are we going to do? And I tried to tell them. So we had a bunch of seniors that year that were going to be really good. And if obviously, sometimes when you're coaching, you can't choose when you're going to leave when these opportunities arise. But that year wasn't the year to leave because I think I had 8 or 9 seniors, returning. And, the good thing is I stayed in contact with them, and I still talk to them to this day. And they got through it, and they had to stick together and, learn their ways. But it was tough. It was really tough because, even your friends in Wayne, the other coaches, it was a hard decision to make, to go there and know that, okay, I'm going to be flipping back the switch. Like, I'm going to have to rebuild this. And how am I going to rebuild that here?
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you have helped build and rebuilding, obviously, South Dakota State?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of have a foundation to your culture. And it took me a couple of years to kind of find my way here. I was a little intimidated by just the Division I word, I guess, because, I played Division II, I was coaching Division II, and that's really all I knew. And so I kind of think at first I thought I had to do something way different than I normally did, until I finally kind of figured out that what I did there can work here too. And that's just kind of building the culture from the bottom up, and talking about, being a good leader and what leaders mean, and everybody buying into their roles and working together. And it's a we versus me mentality. And so I kind of came up with the word grit here at South Dakota State, which means having a growth mindset, resilience, integrity, and trust. And that became the foundation of our culture. And that took me, honestly, I didn't implement that until year 4. And actually year 4 is when we started really turning it around. But I was very overwhelmed at first with just the off the field stuff I was having to deal with here. And then just the recruiting and where to really, what type of kid did I need to recruit to be successful here at this level. And so it took me a little while to get it, to really figure it out. But I do think our culture is one of the best things that we have here. And if you ask one of our players, I think they would agree. They love our team and our culture, and we really embrace that. We talk about it a lot. Weekly, we do what we call leadership class, or our championship mindset. And a lot of times we're talking about our culture and where can we be better, and what can we do, and to continue to, move in the right direction. So I think it's something you definitely have to work on, because you can talk about having a good culture, but like anything, you can talk about being good in softball, you can be a good hitter, but you got to work on it to be good. Same with culture. In order to be good at it, you have to work on it. You have to have some tough conversations when things arise. And I think it's important to find those kids in the recruiting process that will buy into your culture and your mindset of what it takes to be a softball player here. So once I figured out my vision, and once I figured out like the culture part of it, it was really easy to try to sell this program. But and I don't know if I had to do it all over again. I don't know if I'd figure it out any sooner, but I guess better late than never, right?
Of course, what was it like? Obviously, you said you were a player from Division II and a coach, and now you made the jump to Division I. As a coach, what was that transition like from going from obviously Division II to Division I?
I mean, just trying to figure out, well, the rules are, the NCAA rules are slightly different. A lot of them are the same, but slightly different. But just trying to figure out where my place was in recruiting, like, can I go after that kid that's also looking at Minnesota and Nebraska? Can I go after, what kid is going to make a difference here? So trying to figure out, and also now I would say one of the other big things was just my recruiting radius opened up. When I was in Wayne, we really recruited, Iowa and Nebraska, and that was about it. But now at South Dakota State, trying to figure out what that radius was. And, right now we have a couple kids from California, but our radius is about, 8-9 hours. So like down to St. Louis, over to Chicago, and then around, and trying to figure out what works and what type of kids can we pull from those areas to come here. So I think recruiting was probably the hardest thing to kind of navigate through. But again, it took time, and I think you just have to keep plugging away at it until you find your niche and what works for you.
What are some things that you have accomplished so far at South Dakota State?
I mean, I think we've accomplished a lot, and whether that's in the classroom, our field, and our wins and losses. I mean, and I can go down the list, but last year we had the best season ever in Division I history. We were 43-8. We won the Summit League for the first time ever. We were 21-1. We won the Summit League tournament, went to the NCAA tournament, beat Stanford first round 7-1. Had the pitcher of the year, the player of the year, and the freshman of the year in the league. And since I've been here, we've had 2 players of the year and 2 freshmen of the year players, which I think is a great accomplishment. We've had NFCA all region players. In the classroom, we've elevated our GPA from a 3.0 up to a 3.6, because when I got here, we were right at a 3.0. And then even out at the field, I mean, we've continued to make it look great out there, adding a padded wall, a new scoreboard. We're looking at our field. So every aspect of our program, I think, has continued to improve. And like this year, we get to host the Summit League tournament for the first time since we won the Summit League last year. So, I mean, that's a great accomplishment. On top of, we broke a ton of school records last year. We broke the school record. We broke the school record at one point while I was here with 4 home runs, and last year we beat it with 73. ERA, slugging percentage, we continue to kind of keep bringing in players that are pushing those limits and breaking those records. So I think the future looks bright here, but we continue to set our standard a little bit higher every year. And, you know, the goal for this year's team is very similar, but somewhat different in the fact that, yes, we want to win the league and we want to win the conference tournament, but not only that, they want to win a regional. I mean, we were there last year, won a game, and with our pitching staff and our offensive lineup, I think we could go out and win it and win a regional.
Who are some teams that you face in your conference?
Yeah, so our conference consists of North Dakota State, North Dakota, South Dakota, Western Illinois, Nebraska-Omaha, which obviously is where I played, and then Western Illinois. Did I say Western Illinois? Western Illinois, and then UMKC out of Kansas City. They joined a couple years ago, and now this year, St. Thomas out of Minnesota will be. They're the team out of Minnesota that was Division III that jumped to Division I. So we haven't played them yet, but they're now in our league.
Of course, what is it like as a head coach, obviously at South Dakota State, to obviously play your team, your former rival team that you went to school at?
Yeah, it's cool. Like it was even different when I first started here at South Dakota State. My coach was still the coach at UNO, so going against coach was, you know, was somewhat intimidating, and it was fun. And now UNO has a brand new field. Because when I was there, after we won the national title in 2001, they were supposed to get one, and they finally got one a couple of years ago. And we got to be there on opening weekend last year and play in their tournament when they opened it up. And it was really cool to see that because they needed that. But it's fun. I think I've gotten used to it now that I'm in my 8th season. But at first it was like, oh, we can't lose to UNO. I don't want to lose to UNO. But now it's, you know, just another game for me.
Of course, who are some of your big competitors that each week you're like, okay, we have this particular team that we have to bring at our A game?
Yeah, I mean, the Summit League's getting more competitive every year. North Dakota State has been a team in our league that has won it, I think, 6 of my 8 years here. So IUPUI was in and won it one year, and then obviously we won it last year. But UMKC has been a good team. They coming into our league. They had a great season last year and were very competitive. Nebraska-Omaha got hot last year, finished 2nd in the league. But USD is always our rival. I mean, USD is always out there, has, I would say, good hitters. And then North Dakota's got good pitching. And, you know, Western Illinois always seem to have some big hitters and a good pitcher. So our team, our league continues to get better and better. Even since in my 8 years here, I think we continue to get better as a league in softball. So I think we have to bring our A game every game, because I don't think anybody at this point, we're not going to sneak up on anybody and just beat them because of who we are. We have to have our A game every day.
Of course, what does the recruitment process look like for prospective student athletes looking to play college softball?
Here or just in general?
Just in general and at South Dakota.
Yep. So we're not allowed to talk to recruits until September 1st of their junior year. And, you know, so for us, you know, the 23s are what we start talking to in September. So we call them on that day and start building that relationship with them, and then try to bring them on campus, come to a football game, a basketball game, whatever it may be. And then show them around the school, make sure they get their academic visit, but then sit down and talk to them about, you know, Jackrabbit softball and what it means to be a softball player here. And we get into the grit, we get into our culture and what our expectations are here. And then, you know, continue to build that relationship. And then we want it to be a good fit for not only, you know, for them and for us. We want them to be happy when they're here, which is why I don't think we have a lot of kids transfer out, because our culture is great and kids really buy into what we're doing and they like it here.
Of course, on the official visit, what is it like obviously seeing those players put on the jerseys and obviously see if that blue South Dakota State is where they feel at home?
Yeah, it's fun to see them, just they get excited. I think it's a fun opportunity for them to put on the jersey and see what it feels like. And then at that point, if they decide to commit, we have a picture and they can post it. But I just think it's something cool that we can do to kind of spruce up the visit and give them that opportunity.
What advice would you give future high school athletes looking to play college softball?
I would say continue to work hard and love what you're doing, come every day with energy. And I think that's hard when softball players play so much through the summer, is to have that energy every day. Continue to work on the fundamentals, because sometimes I think we get to where we're practicing. Learn to communicate with your players and your coaches in a positive way, because a lot of times we look out there and everyone's just standing there and no one's talking. Kind of watch and talk and communicate with your teammates, in situations and stuff. But continue to, have fun with what you're doing, because when you get to our level, it's more of a job. And if you don't love what you're doing, it's going to be hard. And I think seeing those players with that energy and that swag when you go out there, they're fun to watch. And I just think sometimes we get so caught up in playing another game, and embrace those moments and play more in the moment instead of looking to the next. I think that's hard to do even as a coach here, is celebrate the small things and the moments that you have, because we're always looking to the next game and what's next. But to kind of live in the moment more.
What advice would you give college softball players that are looking to go from when they finish playing softball into coaching?
Yeah, I think the biggest key piece of advice I would give them is learn to build connections with the players. And I think if you can connect with players and build those positive relationships with them, they'll learn to trust you and you'll learn to trust them. But there is that fine line when you're building that relationship, especially as a young coach, that you're not crossing the line and all that, but be respected. But I think connections are the biggest thing now. And then not to be afraid to ask for help when you don't know. I think a lot of times we, as young coaches, and even I did this, I thought I knew and I didn't ask for help when I got in those situations where maybe I just needed it. But as an older coach now, when I'm talking to someone that's just coaching, I'm like, when things go bad, I would just be internal and I would just try to figure it out myself, where I felt like I could, maybe back then I could have reached out to other coaches in the league and just asked for advice, because a lot of them have been through what I was currently going through. And so that would probably be my word of advice, is don't be afraid to reach out to other coaches for help, and then connect with your players.
What advice would you give future college coaches looking to get started in the industry?
Say that again.
What advice would you give future college coaches looking to get started in the industry?
Just find the place that you want to be. Try not to hop around, and get somewhere and buy into their culture and buy into what they're doing, because I think a lot of times coaches will get caught up and going to the next and the next. And it's just be somewhere and be there in that moment so that you can really buy into what's going on, and then build something there, and always leave something better than you found it. And I think that's important. And I think if you can leave your stamp, and whether that's your character, or maybe you really helped out at the field, or whatever it may be, but leave something better than what you found it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with South Dakota State softball?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to learn the whole social media stuff. I think at Go Jack Softball is our Twitter handle, and then at Coach Krista Wood is mine. But we also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page as well.
Thank you again, Coach Krista Wood, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with South Dakota State as the head softball coach.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Krista Wood, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.